and B3. Oh my god, this is gonna crash.
Welcome to the 1000 Hour Challenge, a series where I will spend 1000 hours learning a skill of my choosing. My deadline is 2 years, and when 900 hours have passed, the last 100 will be spent on utilizing what I've learned to create something special. Hello there, and welcome to the second episode. This week hasn't gone exactly as planned. I have been caught up with work, and therefore I haven't been able to spend as much time coding as I would like. However, I have some points I would like to address. While I was watching the series on Skillshare, I realized that a lot of the things are just hypothetical. I don't really follow and write for myself, and even if I would, it wouldn't require much critical thinking since I'm only copying another person's notes. So I decided to leave that series and start looking for other things that I could learn. Most of the stuff are just basic, and I know most of the basic stuff. And how I learned them wasn't from watching videos, it was from creating myself and Googling what I would like to learn. So for example, I learned the scanner method for myself just by Googling it, and he didn't mention it at all in his videos. So I kind of changed my focus from just watching videos to trying to create stuff for myself. So that is what the recap of this week will be focused on. After I left the Skillshare video, I started watching a lot of other areas in Java. For example, what I could do in the Java language. And as starters, I wanted to create apps, right? So I booted up Android Studio after leaving it for a month and tried to learn with the knowledge I had with Java and try to create apps, and it wasn't really successful. I realized that there is a lot of stuff in Android that is specific for Android and not just Java in general. And a lot of the methods and classes I have no idea how to interpret and read. So I decided very quickly that this is not my level of knowledge yet, and I would like to come back to it. After all, I've got about like 980 hours left. So that is going to be something that I want to do in the future. Leading up to that, I found a really good website called Codecademy, and I will link it in the description. And you can get a trial there for 7 days and you can learn coding. Simple enough, right? The difference here is that it is interactive and you have to create for yourself. And before going into a new section, you have to write code for yourself with a few guidelines. So that is what made me realize that creating myself and learning by creating is a more effective way of learning for me.
So we're back in the second week, and unfortunately I haven't had the time to complete as much as I'd hoped for, and mostly it's been due to me just having to work a lot, so I can't really blame myself for that. But I've tried to put it together as good as I can anyways. But hey, let's get right into it. I haven't really watched anything on Skillshare, the Java from beginner to expert, because I realized that a lot of these things aren't really interesting to learn right now. I would just like to get as fluent as I can with the most basic concepts before I continue to do my next thing. So basically I haven't really watched this at all. However, I have moved on and try to learn from other websites, going more, doing like some repetition and going through some more basic concepts again, just to get more fluent in the language of Java. So I have actually been completing this thing, Codecademy, and they have a course called Learn Java, and you can become a pro trial member for 7 days. So in 1 day I completed everything about Java in the Java course, and this is basically how it looks like, and I can decide and write for myself. There's a few checkpoints and stuff, and it's just so good for me to actually do something for myself, I realized that when I just watch videos without creating stuff, I learn not nearly as much as I would if I would write it for myself. So this is just some basic code to learn the different variables and creating your own public static like main function and stuff like that. So I feel much more fluent in creating classes and calling classes back and forth. And I would still say that I am really just scraping of the basics, but I think that it's really important. But the main thing is that I don't feel like there is much of a purpose in the stuff that I'm doing right now. When I completed this course, I wasn't really sure what to do afterwards. You know, I don't really have anything in mind after this. I'm just determined to keep learning, but I don't know what I wanted to create. So I watched a YouTube video on how to create a Discord bot. But when I looked more into it, I realized that the supported languages aren't Java. And even though you can create your own bot from Java, there's a lot of going back and forth and trying to work with something that wasn't there to begin with, something that has been user created. Discord is open source, and therefore you can create bots in almost every language, but the main languages are like C++, and since I'm not learning that, I thought that this was just going to be too difficult with just a few guides on YouTube and not really much to really learn from, because it is not a much touched field. It's not something that has been really researched as much. Most people don't create bots with the Java language, so that therefore I thought that this would just be too difficult. So I moved on, and I wanted to start out doing some apps, because that's the main reason that I'm learning Java in the first place. But I realized that just from the basic stuff here, that I don't understand nearly as much as I'm supposed to do in order to learn Java efficiently and in order to create apps efficiently. For example, there is a lot of stuff that I have no idea of what they mean, and I would just like to learn how to understand this stuff before I move on to actually creating apps. I watched a few more YouTube videos, and I actually got this idea from a friend when he said he was programming in Python, and he was learning how to do web scrapes. So basically, web scraping is just pulling data off websites, like the IMDb top 250 movies and so on. And I thought that would be really interesting, because I believe it's going to be easy enough, and doing it in Java will enable me to create something for myself and at the same time learning while I'm doing it. And I'm not sure, I haven't started doing this yet. I just wanted to give you a quick update before I start doing it. So I hope it is not too difficult, but if it is, I am probably gonna move on to something else. But after spending 15 hours and learning all the basics and all the basic stuff, I realized that you can learn basic stuff how many times you like, and you can learn all these different key points and stuff like that, but you cannot still create something if you just watch and not do. So therefore I would like to add some purpose, and that's why the only thing I've written this week is purposes of Java coding, because I would like to find a purpose with this. And since I'm not fluent enough to start coding in Android Studio, I just thought I would look what you can do with Java and try and create as many things as you can during this time. So this is how far I got with Discord bot. The video I watched was probably just a few months old, but in that time, many things had changed already, so I couldn't really set my token or anything, and I just ended up giving up because this simple line couldn't be built. When I tried to run it, I just got invalid token, and I couldn't even find the token on the Discord bot. I just found the secrets, and apparently secrets and tokens aren't the same thing. So this is how far I got before I gave up. However, I got the Tic-Tac-Toe program working. Well, just a heads up before I go into details. This is not beautiful coding at all. I just wanted to get it functional for the second video. So basically what I have done here is just added a bunch of if statements, a lot of if statements, and this is supposed to check if the game is solved. It does not look pretty, but just from creating this program, I have learned so much about Java programming. For example, before I started, I had never done two-dimensional arrays like you would need in a tic-tac-toe game. But I haven't figured out a good way to check if the game is solved. I'm sure you're familiar about tic-tac-toe and how it works, so I'm not going to get into details about that, but this just checks if there is 3 in a row, pretty much. So I had to do this for all possible outcomes, and I'm not sure if there's any simpler way to do this. It would be really interesting to see if there is, and if there is, please write in the description so I can change the code. And I would like to clear it up and make it better and make it look better and work better. Right now, this is how it looks when it runs. So let me do this. Welcome to my I still haven't fixed this. Welcome to the first version of my tic-tac-toe game. Player 1, you are the X. Player 2, you are the O. To insert an X or O, write like the following example. A+1 for the uppermost left corner. First player, your turn. Please enter the letter of which place you'd like to place your cross. So let's do B2. And the second player, C3. And let's do C2. And B3. Oh my god, this is gonna crash. As you've seen, I haven't added the safeguards, so when I put in V, it's out of range. Basically, V is not in here, it's somewhere down here, and it's outside of the array, and I have not added safeguards yet. Well, that's gonna be on top of my priorities for the next video. But okay, let's try and redo this. A1, B1, A2, B2, C3, B3, and A. Oh yeah, I won. So basically, this just checks if there are 3 in a row, and as there was here, I won the game against myself. So, moving forward, as I mentioned earlier, I realized that I need to create stuff to learn stuff. And therefore, instead of watching a lot of YouTube videos, like going from beginner to advanced in just 9 hours, I am going to make myself projects that I want to make and learn how to do those and get more fluent in Java-oriented programming, object-oriented programming. Yeah. I would like to create graphical user interfaces, like menus and stuff like that. I would like to make some kind of reading from a program, make some innocent bots. Next week I'm going to learn about web scraping, and if I don't find that easy enough, I'm going to move on to making something else that is object-oriented programming related, i.e. splitting it up into different sections. But anyways,
that was everything for this episode. I would like to thank you for watching and see you next week.